a little bit about journal citation reports being the journal impact factor, um, uh, the place where you get the journal impact factor. All right. But for today, I'm going to emphasize a bit more about the other metrics that are available on the journal citation reports so that you can make better decisions on where to publish. So before we dive into today's topic, just some housekeeping to make sure everyone has the opportunity to ask questions and so on. First, mics are on mute because of recording purposes. So if you have any questions, type the questions into the chat and I will be monitoring the chat as we go along. Then if you have technical difficulties through the session, rest assured the recording will be shared so that you can review the parts that you have missed. Towards the end, if we have some time, I might be able to allow for live questions to be asked. And to do so, there is a option to raise your hand and I will be able to see that you want to ask questions live and I'll allow for the mic to be unmuted. If you require the slides, I will be providing the slides to the library, so do contact them should you require it. But do expect that the slides and the recordings will be shared probably by tomorrow. Okay, so without further ado, let me just continue and then we can enjoy today's session. To help everyone understand the context of what we are going to discuss for today's webinar, I thought I'll share some statistics on the number of scholarly journals published out there at the moment. So based on some statistics that we've collected in the past few years, there are over 30,000 plus scholarly journals worldwide across all subject areas. That's actually a very large number. So if you're thinking about the broad subject areas, you're talking about maybe at least 1,000 per subject area. It is still increasing. And within this mix of scholarly journals, we do have journals that have questionable publishing behavior. So this makes it very difficult and even more challenging for researchers, for the library, and for the administrators to understand or know which journals are the trusted sources. Researchers like yourselves are always tight for time because you are rushing to get yourself published. It's part of your KPI. And through that hurry to get published, sometimes you might fall prey to journals that could potentially be fake journals or predatory journals. So focusing on the predatory journals, based on The Economist in year 2020, so now it's like 4 years past already, it's actually even higher now. We do see an increasing trend in predatory sources. When we talk about predatory sources, there's currently no clear definition of what it means to be a predatory journal. There is also no law to protect researchers when it comes to them publishing in these unethical journals. Because to the legal eye, some of these journals are still legitimate, but it's just that their practice is a bit questionable. So things like they might not do a proper peer review. They might pretend that they are a particular journal, but because they name themselves very close to this very high impact journal, or they put in editorial board members that are not exactly their editorial board members, but just to attract researchers to publish there and collect things like the article processing charges. Now, what I'm saying is that not all journals that collect APCs are fake journals or predatory journals. All right. Now, with the push for open research, open access journals are increasing in their quality. So the ultimate aim is to be able to understand how to identify these trusted sources, even if they are open access. I'm emphasizing this also because number one, when you accidentally publish in a journal that it is fake, okay, or predatory, um, ultimately you lose your copyright of your research article or your manuscript to that journal. So if it's not a recognized journal by your institution or by the government or Ministry of Education, then your research basically goes down the drain. All right. So very important. Think about how you are going to identify these good sources to publish in. So there are many resources out there that would guide you with a simple checklist on how to screen for predatory journals. This particular checklist I've extracted from thinkchecksubmit.org. I think some of you might know this website pretty well, but this website provides some guidance on how you can identify these trusted sources of journals. This checklist is not exhaustive, but it helps with your initial check. All right. So first, ask yourself, do you or your colleagues know the journal? Sounds very straightforward, right? But a lot of times when you're rushing for time, you might just see, oh, I'll get published in 1 month. So it sounds good. It looks like there's an ISSN. The website looks professional. Okay, I'll just submit my manuscript there. Okay, of course, I'm oversimplifying this, but that's just an example. Okay, then can you easily identify and contact the publisher? I don't think many researchers actually think about where the ultimate address of the publisher is. Now, there are many big publishers out there like Taylor and Francis, Wiley, Springer, and Nature, and so on, right? They do have potentially various different offices worldwide, which looks after different sets of journals. So if you do want to verify whether a journal is indeed that publisher's journal, number one, you can make sure that you use the source, that means the platform of that publisher to see these journals, or you when you're looking at a journal's homepage, if they've disclosed the publisher's name, the address, do a quick Google search to make sure that you can actually find these locations. Okay. And of course, make sure that the publisher provided a official contact email address for contact purposes, for communication purposes, and it's not Gmail or Hotmail. Okay. Then is the journal clear about the type of peer review it uses? Now, all scholarly journals, all scholarly research outputs have to be peer reviewed, even conference proceedings and special issues of articles and so on. Journals have to disclose what type of peer review they use. And in the past, there used to be only two, think something like single blind, double blind. But now with the advocacy of open research, you also see open peer review. So open peer reviews are when the journal says, okay, if you decide to publish in my journal, your review process will be fully published once completed. So meaning it will be disclosed to the researcher. It will also be disclosed to readers of that article. All right, so that's open peer review. Then articles indexed in services that you use. Now, this would mean earlier on I mentioned, make sure that you are able to find those journals through the big publishers portals, right? But potentially also like solutions which have pre-curated the journals for indexing. For example, the Web of Science. The Web of Science does not index every single journal under the sun. We will leave that to Google. All right. But for us at Web of Science, we do a quality check of all journals before they can be included into the Web of Science ecosystem. The reason is because of the research ethics and publishing ethics that we want to uh, uh, enforce. Okay. Then is it clear what fees will be charged? Now with open access journals, the main fee would always be article processing charges. I always get questions from researchers asking me, if a journal charges very, very high article processing charges, does this mean that they are predatory? Not necessarily so. So some journals, because they are very established, open access journals, and they receive probably a lot of manuscripts each day, and also because they are very high in their quality and impact, then they and therefore the process of managing manuscripts can be a bit higher, and therefore they might correspondingly potentially higher APC. All right. But besides the APC, any journal, if they want to collect any other charges from you, they need to explain this on their website to make sure that you understand clearly what fees are collected, when they are collected. So example, some journals will collect maybe color processing charges if you do have color images, especially for those medical related journals. Okay. Then do you recognize the editorial board? Earlier on, I mentioned about journals putting in big names into their editorial board members list. So just do a quick check to make sure that you're able to identify, confirm whether that researcher, that editorial board member is indeed um, supporting that journal. So this, how do you do that? It's just pretty simple. If you see very big names, they usually have an affiliation under their names. Just go to that particular affiliation, check whether that individual is still there, whether that person indicated in his public profile that he's an editorial board member of that journal that you were looking at. So all these things uh, can help to verify. Then is the publisher a member of a recognized industry initiative? So I'm talking about the publisher here. So most major publishers will be members of COPE, so Committee on Publication Ethics. Journals themselves might have a section that would declare their publishing ethics statements. So they have to be you have to be able to identify their guidance for authors with regards to research ethics or publication ethics. All right. Then if it's an open access journal, you can always look at Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, to check whether those journals are indeed real journals. Check their ISSN versus their title. Okay, so make sure that the title and the ISSN is exactly what was listed in the DOAJ. So as I mentioned, this list is not exhaustive. It's just almost like a very basic check for the legitimacy of the journals. But even just this simple list already requires a bulk of your time as researchers to verify. Okay. So like I mentioned, use resources like the Web of Science that has already curated the content so that you know that whichever journals that you're looking at within the Web of Science core collection has already passed the quality checks. So within the Web of Science, we do index over 21,000 journals, and these are across the science, social science, arts and humanities citation index, as well as the emerging sources citation index. I think the key question from many researchers now would be, what's the difference between the emerging sources and the 3 specialized collections? So this then brings me to this next slide, which is the selection criteria for the Web of Science journals. So upon evaluation of the journals, if they meet our 24 quality criteria, which is this lilac box here, they will be indexed in the ESCI. So the journals will automatically be included in ESCI upon meeting all 24 criteria here. If they meet an additional 4 more impact criteria, which is this dark purple section here, then they will be indexed into the the 3 specialized collections. Okay. So if you take a closer look at the criteria, you would notice that it looks familiar. Okay, some of these were part of that checklist that I was showing you. Things like presence of peer review policy, the timeliness of publications, the website functionality, editorial affiliations, ethics statements, evidence of peer review. Okay, so when we talk this criteria, peer review, and this presence of peer review is 2 different of peer review. This first one is just a presence of mentioning what type of peer review they do. This one, on the other hand, is about finding the evidence. So if the journal is doing open peer review, well and good, we can see and monitor. If the journal is doing single blind, double blind, then the other option that we would look at would be potentially a date under each of the articles that shows when the manuscript was submitted, when it was peer reviewed, when it was edited and returned, and when it was accepted for publishing. So declaration of all these dates are now more and more prolific. So that's the evidence that we will be looking at. Okay. So can you imagine if you as a researcher go through this whole 24 checklist? I think that's almost equivalent to you writing a research article. Okay, so why not make use of a resource that already has done this curation, and we continue to monitor these journals' quality and provide these trusted sources to you. Okay, so that's the overview of how we curate journals, and also what you need to look out for to avoid the pitfalls of publishing in predatory journals. Now, the next part will be guiding you on how to keep up to date with the Web of Science journals that are indexed currently. Now, we do have something called the master journal list. Okay, the master journal list is a free website that you can kind of access. So it's called mjl.clarivate.com. I'll put the URL into the chat in a while. But this is where we keep the list of journals that are indexed in the Web of Science ecosystem. So you can go in, have a quick check of the journal, and if it doesn't appear in a master journal list, then it is not indexed in the Web of Science. Okay, this site is updated on a monthly basis, and you can actually download something called a change document. So we provide monthly change document details on the website, so that you can keep track of journals that have been recently accepted, journals that have been removed from the Web of Science, or even journals that have changed their title. Okay. So this list is exportable via the master journal list website. On this list, when you're browsing through the journals, you can also see something called an on-hold flag sometimes. These on-hold flags are indications that the journal content is no longer being included into the Web of Science because it has been flagged to have some issues with its quality. So we are doing a re-evaluation of that journal, and if the journal continues to meet the 24 quality criteria, they will be continued to be indexed in the Web of Science. If they don't, then they will be removed moving forward from the Web of Science. Okay, so that's the master journal list, and that page, like I mentioned, would hold any of all the journals that are indexed in Web of Science up to the latest month, right? So what's the difference between master journal list journals and the journals that you see in the journal citation reports? Now, the journal citation reports is an annual report that we produce to show you the metrics of those journals in Web of Science. And that's when we release the annual journal impact factor. So the journal impact factor is calculated using citations in the previous year to documents published in the 2 prior years before. So you can imagine that it has to be a snapshot in time. So the journals in the journal citation reports are a snapshot of what's covered in the Web of Science up to a certain date in the previous year. So it could be this, I believe it was December. So any journals that were indexed in Web of Science in, let's say, 2022 is definitely covered, should be covered in the 2023 journal citation report. Okay, so the journals that you see in journal citation reports, you would realize that, how come I can see this journal in Web of Science, but I cannot find this journal in JCR? Okay, one potential reason is because it might be a new journal that was just indexed after we cut off the date to retrieve data for JCR. Okay, so just take note, there could be a slight difference in the list of journals in master journal lists versus the list in journal citation reports. So when do you use either one? So if you just want to verify whether a journal is indexed in Web of Science or not, master journal list can be where you go to. All right. If you need details like the journal impact factor, the quartile, the ranking, okay, that would be journal citation reports. Okay, I hope that's clear. So the latest journal citation reports is the 2023 journal citation reports. The 2024 reports will only be launched or released next month. So it's in June each year. The exact date hasn't been announced yet, but I believe it would be somewhere towards the end of June. So do look out for further announcements on the release of the upcoming JCR. This the current one that you will be looking at is still the 2023 journal citation reports, and it uses 2022 data to calculate the journal impact factors and other metrics. On the journal citation reports, we also include quality controls, further quality controls, apart from the curation of the 24 quality criteria. We monitor for self-citations, and I'm talking about journal self-citations. So journals that have excessive journal self-citations would be flagged as problematic. They will be served a warning, and if they don't rectify it, then it will lead to them being suppressed and they will not receive their journal impact factor. Okay, and when you're looking at the journal citation reports later, when we're on the platform, you would notice that for most of our metrics, we give an explanation of what those metrics are, and we will also give you information about how those metrics were calculated. So if there was a formula, you would be able to see the formula and what were the numbers that were used to calculate. So when we talk about indicators in journal citation reports, there are quite a few, but the main ones that we will always be looking at is the journal impact factor. And most recently, we just released another indicator called the journal citation indicator. Why did we release it? Because we realized that a lot of institutions are just basing their reward systems or award systems based on the journal impact factor. But high journal impact factor doesn't mean that if the number for the journal impact factor is very high, it doesn't necessarily mean that that journal is performing very, very well. The reason is because different subject areas may have different citation behavior. So let's say a journal in business would have a very much lower journal impact factor compared to a journal in, say, engineering or computer science. Okay, so you cannot use the journal impact factor to compare a computer science journal with one in business. So if your award system is always based on journal impact factor, then in the end, those who publish in business journals will always be on the losing end. So ideally, it would be better to look at other metrics that is not the journal impact factor to award researcher performance. But in case you do need something that is connected to the journals, we now have this other indicator called the journal citation indicator. So that journal citation indicator is a normalized indicator, meaning we've already put the citation performance into context of that subject category. So when you're looking at JCI, you can use JCI to compare a journal in business and a journal in computer science. So if the journal in business has a JCI of 1.5, whereas the one in computer science is 1.2, then you can safely say that the business journal is performing better than the one in computer science. Because 1.0, so JCI of 1.0 is always the global average. So if any journal goes above 1, it's performing above average. Anything below 1 is below average. So very clear-cut indicator. All right. So I will go into the live platform and kind of show you the details of the metrics so that you can kind of understand how to read and how to use the metrics better. But before I go there, I wanted to advise on some changes to our policy. Okay. So currently, in case there's any journal editors on the call, we currently adopt an AI tool to help us to identify journals that need to be re-evaluated. So if they do need re-evaluation, they will be flagged and we will re-evaluate them, and they will be removed if they no longer meet our criteria. This in 2023, we also introduced the journal impact factor to all journals in the Web of Science. So that means including the AHCI and the ESCI journals. So all journals will now have a journal impact factor. We also, so now what you see here is what it used to be only SCIE and SSCI that receive a journal impact factor. But now AHCI and ESCI journals are also having a journal impact factor. So meaning all journals are quality journals. The only differentiator is the impact. All right. So what we are doing in this year and next year and this next month, all right, is that we are going to introduce the rankings, so quartiles to ESCI journals. Okay, so you would notice that in 2023, this was the first year that we introduced journal impact factor to AHCI and ESCI, but not the rankings, no quartile. Next month, we are going to introduce the quartiles to ESCI. We are not introducing the rankings to AHCI because of the closeness of their journal impact factors. So in the end, the quartiles make no useful indicator because it would not help differentiate the performance of the journals in AHCI much. All right, so they will not be receiving a ranking, but ESCI journals will. Okay. Okay, so in terms of the journal citation report number of journals, we cover in 2023, 21,522 journals. Okay. And out of which 5,600 of them are Go Open Access journals. All right. So that's the details of the JCR and master journal list. So now I'm just going to go into the platform to show you the details and how to navigate and what are the metrics that would be useful. Okay. In the meantime, I don't see any questions in the chat. So I strongly encourage you to type any questions you have into the chat if you have, so that we can make sure that you take this opportunity to clarify any doubts that you might have about all these different uh, um, indexes in Web of Science, quartiles, and journal impact factor details. Okay. So let's start with accessing journal citation reports. So to access JCR, you can go through your library library portal, go to the library website, look for journal citation reports, and then do the relevant login. Once you have logged in, you can start to browse journal citation reports. Okay, the direct URL is jcr.clarivate.com. You have to either be on campus or access through the library in order to gain access to the platform. You can do a registration for your own ID and password should you require. This allows you to do some personalizations like adding your favorites, doing customized views and so on. Right. Now from JCR, if you want to access the master journal list, it is here under products and master journal list. Okay. So I'll start from here, master journal list, to show you how to verify a journal is in Web of Science or not. Okay. Just type in the journal name. So let's say I have International Journal of Hydrogen Energy. I do a search. If the journal is indeed in the Web of Science, it will show here under exact match found. Okay. And you just have to make sure that it says Web of Science core collection and which index. Okay. Now there's a question in the chat. You also use Schemago. Can you please explain the difference between this one and master journal list? Now, the Schemago details is mainly highlighting the Scopus journals, I believe. So the quartiles there, the journals index there covered there would be different from master journal list because we are two different providers. So the way that we evaluate journals or classify journals are different, and therefore the quartiles could be different, the rankings could be different. They might have their site score, we have our journal impact factor. So very different mechanisms altogether. So always refer to your institution's requirements on what is recognized. They will be quite precise in what they require. So most institutions would say only publish in journals. We only recognize journals that are published in the Web of Science, and they have to have a certain quartile in the Web of Science. Okay. Okay. So Nazri, to be clear, we can only access the services within the campus domain. Yes, you can log in remotely. So if the journal, if the library website has a remote access option, you always have to sign in through that remote login before accessing JCR. Okay. All right. For environmental health research, could we refer to JCIs from SCIE and SSCI interchangeably, or is there one to prefer or between both? Okay. Maybe later on I'll show you how to use both JCI and journal impact factor. Okay. Then how long will journal remain in suppressed list before it is taken out? Okay, so once a journal is suppressed, it might take at least a few years before they can be reinstated, because we will still have to do that re-evaluation even after they say that they have rectified that issue. Okay. Okay. Now let me continue. All right. So this is the master journal list here. If you need details about that journal, there is a view profile page that requires a login, but it gives you only some basic information about the journal. All right. So if you do want to access this, just register for free access and it should be fine. You could see JCR. So if let's say you have registered for your own ID, it's linked to a subscription, the JCR details will also appear. All right. Then you have your preprint information. You would also have peer review information that was disclosed by the journal. Then if there was APC charges, if the journal is an open access journal on DOAJ, the APC charges amounts will also be shown in this page, okay, but not in JCR. So any relevant APC charge will be in master journal list, okay. If you want to download the change document, it's here under downloads. You would see the monthly change documents here. There's one for the whole year of 2023, and then there's one for each year. So you would notice that for January 2024, you can download and it will open this Excel. Okay, and you would notice that, wow, there's a long list of journals that were just indexed in January. Okay, so all these journals may not necessarily or probably will not be in this year's JCR release in next month because they are very new, just accepted in January. So they will only get their journal impact factor probably next year. All right. So that's how you can verify and check these journals. Okay, so that's it for master journal list. Just verify the journal name, look at the changes for each month. Okay. Then you come to journal citation reports. Now, on journal citation reports, first thing that you would probably want is a list of journals in your subject area. So since somebody mentioned environmental health research, let's look at that. All right. So under categories, you can scroll down and look at a topic area. So we have this category here, and you can browse and see whether there's anything specific to yours. So let's say we're looking at public, environmental, and occupational health. Then you can click on that. You would see a list in SCIE, SSCI, ESCI. Now, you rightly pointed out that journals do get included into both SCIE and SSCI potentially, because if you see here, this journal is in clinical medicine. There are groups here, so they can fall under, one journal can fall under multiple subject categories. So what would you use? I would recommend the higher one. Okay, so if it's a Q1 journal in SCIE, use Q1. Most institutions in Malaysia do recognize the higher quartile, even if it's in multiple categories. Some other countries are a bit more strict. They would look at that your article, which subject area it falls under, then it will get that corresponding subject areas quartile based on this. Okay, but for Malaysia, I think it's blanket use of the higher quartile, no matter which area it is in. Okay, so if you do want only journals in SCIE, then you can click on this 207. Right. And then under this 207, the 207 journals right here, you can see by default. So let me show you the default view. These are the indicators you will see. So the journal impact factor, the quartile of journal impact factor, and the JCI. Okay, there's also a percentage of open access goal right here. Now this one, you can sort by any field that has that drop down arrow. So I'm going to sort this by journal impact factor. You might ask why you can't sort by quartile. The reason is because once you sort by journal impact factor, the quartile will automatically be sorted also. Okay, so it's just sort by journal impact factor. So you have the highest to the lowest, and if you see the JCI and the journal impact factor, let me just choose one. So let's say this particular journal, MMWR, Recommendations and Reports. This has a journal impact factor of 33.7, 33.9. So fairly similar in terms of their journal impact factor between these two. Then you would see that the JCI for this other one is 8.82, this one is 10. So this journal has a better citation performance compared to this other one. Okay, so in terms of citation impact, this is a better journal. Okay, so you can kind of see and compare according to these two indicators. So especially when they both fall under the same quartile or have very similar journal impact factors, you could also use JCI to help you to decide which one has a better impact, especially if the aims and scopes of the journals are fairly similar and close, right? So from here, you can actually export this list. So you can export this whole list for your own reference. You can also customize this to view other indicators from the journal. So I will explain the indicators in right now. So if you go into any of this journal, so let's say Lancet Public Health, okay? So this profile page is available for any journal that is indexed in JCR. Always see what's the latest year. So this is 2022. Sometimes when you're browsing JCR, you would come across a journal and it stops at 2021 or 2020. So it means that that journal either was delisted from Web of Science in that year, after that year, or they might have changed title. So if they have changed title, a note will be there to let you know which name it has changed to and link you through to the latest journal profile page. Okay. So on this journal profile page, you would see details about which subject category it is under, the publisher, the publication frequency, and of course the journal's performance. So the journal impact factor is here. You can click and view the calculation. And then we have the citable items on the right so that you can view the documents. So if anything is of interest and you want to read it, you can just click view in Web of Science. It will take you to the abstract in the Web of Science. So this can serve as a good reading list when you are deciding whether to publish in that journal or not. Then you could look at the JCI. So this journal has a JCI of 9. So it means that it's performing 9 times better than the other journals, right? Then if you scroll further down, you see citation distribution. If this journal publishes articles and reviews, so both, then you can kind of see which kind of documents get cited more. So there's others. So others could be other types of documents. So things like editorial letters, conference proceedings, and so on. Just take note for citable items in JCR, when we calculate the journal impact factor, we only take articles and reviews, no conference proceedings. All right. Then you have the open access content. and the ranking. So we have the Journal Impact Factor rank and the JCI rank. Take note, for now, most institutions will, when we talk about quartiles, is referring to the Journal Impact Factor quartile. Okay, so just take note, this is the one that is mainly for the recognition within the institutions. There is also JCI quartile because this journal is in has a JCI. So there's also a quartile for JCI, but currently JCI quartile is not the main one that most institutions use to recognize journals. Then you have the cited half-life and citing half-life. This could be quite useful. So cited half-life would show you the age of documents from this journal that is still being cited. So this journal has papers published 2 years ago that is still being cited today. Anything before, anything longer, so meaning like 4 or 5 years ago, they might not be cited now. Okay, so this helps you to think about whether you would have longevity in your citations if you publish in this journal. Then you have the journal citation relationship wheel. This is useful if you need alternative journals to consider, especially when you were rejected. So let's say, for example, you were rejected by Lancet Public Health. You want to find some other journals to publish in. Then because of the citation relationship, these other options could be quite viable. Okay. Ida, you asked whether the recording is going to be shared. Yes, it is. Okay, so you can review the parts that you might have missed, or if I have too fast, you want to repeat and listen again. Yeah, you can. The recording will be sent to you tomorrow. Okay, then you scroll down, coming back to the information here. You have your content metrics. So we have information about the source data. So out of the 82 citable items, that means articles and reviews, 69 of them are articles, 13 of them are reviews. So if you are publishing a review article, you might realize that this one doesn't really accept many reviews. Maybe my competition will be quite high. If I'm publishing an original research article, yes, potentially good home for my manuscript. Okay. Then you have your contributions by country. So this helps you to see whether the journal has any regional focus. Some journals are very UK-centric, US-centric. Some are quite well balanced across the globe, like this one. Some are really extreme, like only a very long line for UK and US, nothing for Southeast Asia or APAC. So this then helps you to consider, hey, is it because the scope that they are focusing on is not Southeast Asia? If they are not focusing on Southeast Asia, then this would probably not be a good home for my manuscript. Right. Then there are other metrics here I won't go through because I think these would not be so relevant to the researchers, but this one could be. So the immediacy index shows you citations per document in the first year in that year. So you would see in 2022, they published 785 items, 82 items, all receiving a total of 785 citations. So on average, each item received about 9 citations. So potentially, if you submit your article here, you get published, you could get your citations in the first year of publication. Okay, so the higher the number, the better. Okay, someone said that they lost their sound. They might have to restart, but if you can all still hear me, please say yes. Okay, or just mention that you can hear the sound. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, so this is the journal profile page. Again, every journal will have their own page for you to refer to. You can add this to as your favorite journal so that you can keep track of it, or go back to this list on the table and select another one to view. All right. So having explained all the metrics, you might want to have the metrics that I mentioned all in one table. So this is where you can start to customize your view. So you can click on customize and then select the relevant ones. So I mentioned about cited half-life, percentage of articles in citable items, JCI, JCI, okay, immediacy index. Okay, and you can just select whichever others that you might want to see. Okay, so I'll select those. Then you would see all the selected metrics appearing together. Now, here is where you can immediately see whether this journal is suitable or not based on your manuscript type. Okay, give me a second. All right. So if, for example, you see this one, this journal has a 99% articles in citable items, meaning out of 100 articles, 100 documents, 99 of them are original articles. So only one is a review. So if you are publishing a review document, then this would not be a good home. Okay. Then you have this one, 69%. So out of 100 documents, 69 of them are original articles, and then the rest is reviews. Then yes, potentially you could submit your review document here. Okay, so this is how you use this particular metric. All right, documents that are the 99 very high percentage, like close to 100% open access gold. Usually these are gold pure open access journals that might require an APC charge. Okay, so you could use this as that indicator, but of course you have to still refer to the journal's website to see the details. Now, some of you would also say, oh, how can I retrieve the top 10% journals? Okay, so you would use the filter here on the left, go to journal impact factor percentile, select 90 to 100 and apply. Then this list of 22 journals are your top 10% journals. And then you can export this for your reference. All right, so that's how you can utilize journal citation reports. You do have options to view the publishers as well. So list of journals under each publisher is available. You also have countries. I think for Malaysia, you have close to 80 journals. So let me just check. Yep, so you have 81 journals from Malaysia. Click on this 81 and it will show you the 81 Malaysia journals. Okay. Then finally, one last feature that could be quite useful is that maybe you already have your manuscript ready and you just want to see whether you can identify a best home for your manuscript. So we have this thing called a manuscript matcher. So you can click on match my manuscript on the home page of JCR. Enter your title, journal title, so your article title and the abstract, and then just click on find articles. So let me just find one. Okay. So I'm just going to grab one sample to show you. Okay, so So I just want to quickly find one. Okay, so let's say I use this article. Okay, and I will put it in here, and then I will look at the abstract, and then I'll put it here, and then find journal. Okay, so the system will actually sift through your abstract to pull out keywords. So it will say that it's matched the keywords based on these three recommended keywords, and then these are the suggested journals that you can publish in. So you have health and quality of life outcomes. So you can see the Web of Science core collection is in. It is in SCIE, SSCI, and then you can go and view profile. Okay, same thing here, quality of life research with details whether it's in core collection, and then you can view the profile. Okay, so this could be quite useful if you already have your manuscript ready. You just put in the abstract and the title, and the system should be able to recommend journals to you. All right. So that's it for all I wanted to share with you. Additional resources are here on the Resource Center. So you click on that question mark, it will open up, it will tell you the product updates. There's a help section with training resources and also a help guide. So you can click on the help guide and there will be explanations on the indicators that we use, but also a list of journals that were suppressed in the latest report and for the reason. Okay. And that's it. So just keep a lookout for next release of JCR, which is next month. I believe I would have a webinar coming up in July for the region to highlight what were the main changes for JCR this year, and also how it has affected the ESCI journals, but with the introduction of the quartiles. All right, so do look out for invitations about that. If you are interested, feel free to sign up for that webinar. Okay. So we do have maybe 2 minutes more. If there's anybody who wants to ask questions live, feel free to raise your hand. I can unmute your mic and you can ask. Alternatively, final calls for questions in the chat, and then we can probably end the session for those who have no questions. All right. So thank you for your support and thank you for taking time to join our webinar today. I hope it was useful. Not too much information, I hope, information overload, but the recording will be there and sent to you so that you can review. Okay. So thank you, everyone. And I think there's no further questions, so I'll end the session and I'll see all of you the next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.